Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Just the other day I noticed caterpillars eating the leaves on my elm bonsais. So they're just munching away here, and whenever you go near them they all stick their tails up in the air. I don't know, so they look scarier, I guess, so birds and that fly away and don't eat them. I'm not sure what kind of caterpillars they are. They have kind of a red head on them and a green body. So I'm going to look it up and see if I can find out what they turn into. I looked up these creatures and it turns out they're sawfly larvae, and they turn into sort of a winged insect which lives 7 to 10 days. And it drills a little hole on your tree and lays its eggs in that hole, and then they hatch and come and eat the leaves. So they're not really that harmful to trees, but they're not very attractive, and I'm going to get rid of them. I'll cut that branch off with the scissors, and then I'll feed the larvae to the chickens. They'll love it. So like that. Oh, there's one behind here. I'll get this one too. They've been working their way up this branch. I'll take that over to the chicken coop and we'll feed them sawfly larvae. All right, here I go. You're waiting for them, aren't you? That's because I always give you treats. Look at that. Yeah, no, right from the end there. There you go, and here's some more. Look at that. There you go, do you like them? There you are. How's that? I don't have any more treats for you. Sorry. Yeah, they're eating those little worms down there. A bit of a creepy, crawly start to the video today. I'm going to be working on my Serissa foetida. It's styled to look like an African Acacia tree. And I'm going to be refining the canopy. And I may be repotting it, repositioning it in the pot, and doing some changes to the landscape. This coming up in the Bonsai Zone. I'll begin by pruning up the canopy on the tree, and I'm going to not only get an overall shape, the flat top kind of canopy, but I'm going to divide it into clumps, you know, picking out my central branches and dividing them up and pruning them all at different levels to kind of isolate each clump. And you can see this on some of the mature acacia trees. They get that kind of different clouds in the canopy. So I'll be trying for that style today. I'll begin the pruning by looking down from the top view, and then I'll try and isolate which branches go with which kind of major trunk or branch down below, and separate them into different sections, leaving a clean line between all the sections. So a bit of space with no foliage. So here I go. So from the top view here, I need to look at the branches. So like this branch belongs over here. This one belongs over here. So by isolating the branch structure like that, you can see there's a dead branch there. This kind of isolates that pad. So I'll start by pruning away this dead wood. I don't really want dead wood on this tree. Like that. And then I'll prune back all the foliage that's interfering with each pad. So this one is running over top of this section, so I'll prune it back. Trying to get a space between each section. I've done this before on one of my videos, and it turned out quite nice. So this one's getting a little long and interfering. So now I'm slowly defining this area. There's still some overhanging here. Just pruning out some of these long ones that are sticking out of the profile. So now you can see that this area is defined as one section. I want an apex section up here, and then these pads will kind of surround the apex. So I've got that one kind of defined, and I could even break it up into smaller sections by, you know, isolating this as one section, half of that is one section, and this is one section. It all depends how many pads I want in the final image. And usually, the more pads you have, the larger the tree looks. It kind of changes the scale of the tree and makes it look quite a bit larger. So I'm going to keep this as my kind of apex pad, so I'll prune it back, trying to get some space between this pad and the surrounding ones. I'm starting to get a little bit of a division between them, but it's still not very defined. Some hard pruning there just to get this pad defined. It's just got too many branches interfering with the one beside it. So that's starting to get there. This is my apex. And you can do this on any tree. Junipers, boxwoods, you know, any tree that has a domed canopy on it. You can separate that canopy into sections and then, you know, give them a slightly different height. And it looks really good. It makes it look more miniature, less of a topiary type look. And these quickly grow back in. So you can't really make a mistake. You know, if once I have these pruned into sections, you know, a month or two later, it'll all be filled in again. So you can, you know, rearrange your sections if you didn't like them and change your mind about things. They're not set in stone once you've pruned them. So I've got this one defined, my center one, and now I'll start working on this section over here. I'll make this whole front piece one section. So that's roughly defined this front section. So I've got 1, 2, 3. Now I'll define the one over here as my fourth one. Now I think this part, I've got this branch coming out here which defines this part. And there's another one here that I could maybe separate into a separate section, and I think I'll do that. So I'll try and isolate these, split these into two, like that. And I've got a section back here. This could also be split into two. I think I will. I'll keep one section here and one here. Just pruning off these really long shoots. Like that. That's looking better. And then back here, there's a separate tree back here, which I'm going to ignore because I'll probably put that in a different location. But there's one section here that I think needs to be treated separately, like that. And then one over here, which could be divided up. I think I will. So I have some good separation now. I have this section, this one, which could even be subdivided here, which I think I will. I'll shorten it here, create a little definition, like that. I've got this is sort of subdivided, not very well. Don't know if we can get it too much better than that for now. I got sort of a section here, one here, one here. So they're all divided up into little pads. So now I'm going to go down low and then prune the height of these pads. Here's the tree from the front view now, and you can see my foliage pads are separated, but I don't have much change in height. So I do want to keep that flat top in mind, but I just want to create some variation. So some will be pruned lower, some a little higher, just to make some subtle variation in all these different pads. I've got the camera off at a bit of an angle so I can see the front view of the tree. And I think my first step will be to define my front pad here. So I want my apex just a little taller, so this will be a little lower. So I'll come in and start pruning away, trying to create a bit of a pad at the front here. I'm just checking my separation line here, just defining it a little more. checking my profile from above too, my overall canopy profile. And I will, instead of being a, you know, a nice smooth oval from above, these pads will, the profile will come in a little bit, stick out a little bit. So you'll get some variation in the profile too, just from the pads. There's some low foliage here that I want to take off. I want to keep the canopy fairly clean underneath, so anything hanging down too much will get pruned off. Okay, that's kind of got my first pad in place here. I may have to, I've got a vertical one sticking up here I'm going to have to get rid of. I don't like that branch. Fairly thick branch, but just wasn't growing in a good place. Okay, that looks much better. Okay, so the next pad is my apex, and I'll have to prune that to a, you know, almost flat, but a bit of a rounded top to it. So here I go with that. And it'll be higher than this other pad. So you'll notice a difference in height. And then it'll have to taper back towards the back here. I'm trying to cut between leaves here if I can. It's looking pretty good. I can see a bit of separation between these two pads now. Okay, so now I've got this section over here. I'll have to trim back. It'll also have to be lower than the apex. And I'm trying to put a bit of shape in these pads so they're not just flat on top, that they have kind of a bit of a roundness to them. So that helps define them too without making them too obvious. It's kind of just a subtle effect. Again, I've got some low branches here I want to remove just to keep the bottom of the profile nice and clean. And now I'll start on the one over on the far right hand side. I'll start here, kind of work my way out, tapering off the canopy. I did a major cut on this branch earlier and it sprouted out, but it had too much vigor and I got these big thick coarse branches coming out. I'll give you a shot of the progress so far so you can kind of see the effect from up here of what I'm doing. All right, I'll come in. You can kind of see how I've separated the upper canopy from above, and down below I have different kind of planes, so you can kind of see it the most from these kind of angles here. And this is the section I had, that big thick branch I had to prune back. It was getting too heavy. You can see even from the front that this branch was getting way too thick compared to the rest, so I had to knock back the vigor in it. So I took the apex off that branch, and then it sprouted out these really thick coarse branches coming off of it. So I'll just have to keep pruning them, working away at them, and rebuilding that kind of, you know, the leader to that branch. It just, something had to be done there. That one left hand side branch was just taking over the whole tree. So yeah, I'll keep pruning away. I've got all these back sections to do, and then we'll come in and see how it all looks in the end. These Serissas don't smell very good when you prune them. They have a really foul kind of smell to them. That must be a protection or something for the tree. Any yellow leaves, I just pull them out. You don't want any yellowy looking leaves in the final presentation. Here's a look at the progress so far. I think when I repot this tree, instead of this being the front, I'd like it just slightly off to the angle. You can see the structure in here a little better rather than here. So just changing that front just by a little bit. I think that'll improve the tree. I'm going to prune these back trees. They're getting really bushy and there's a lot of dead sections to them. So I'll prune those next. You can see that's kind of here and here. And I may not even use these in the final planting. I may change it from a forest to just the single tree. Yeah, the canopy is getting quite large on this Serissa. And there's not really space for all these trees in this pot anymore. It's just growing too large. So I'll start pruning these back, getting them back to shape so they have their own flat top canopy. And they'll probably maybe even just be separate trees in a different planting, or maybe they'll be planted by themselves, I don't know. I'll get this one pruned back now. You can keep these Serissas small with pruning. I just don't want my main tree here to have too thick a trunk compared to the size of the canopy. I want to keep it kind of in these proportions, so as the trunk grows thicker, the canopy grows larger too. I don't want it to become this really gnarly old tree with a tight canopy on it. I want to keep it looking like an acacia tree. I would like to repot this tree, but it's only 3 days before our club show, and I don't feel like bringing a tree that's, you know, just newly repotted to the show. So I'll have to leave it in this pot for now. But after the show, I do have plans. I have a new clay pot I can put the tree in. I'm going to rearrange the landscape. I'm going to have the tree more central to the pot here, and I'm going to move my rock copy over to this side, and I'll probably remove all the other trees in the planting, so it's just a single tree and the rocks. I have that one stub sticking up here, and I don't really like it. It bugs me because it's kind of pointing in across. It's not flowing out from the branch, and I think it would look better to develop this as the branch leader and have, you know, ramification coming off it from that point. So I'm going to take that whole branch off, at least this stubby part here. So here I go. Like that. Yeah, it was kind of ugly, that anyway. Didn't really like that. Yeah, that looks much better without that ugly stub sticking up there. There's a branch at the back of the planting that's getting quite thick too. I'll turn it around here. Right over here. I can see in future I may have to cut that branch back. I think I have cut it at one point, but it may need some more further correction in future. For now it's in the back and you can't really see it that much, so there's a dead branch I'll remove here. It's kind of hanging down like that. A few low branches here I can cut back just to kind of raise that canopy up a bit. All right, I'll turn the tree back around now. We'll see how it's looking. I've got to make a decision about these dead trees now. Last time they didn't really bother me too much, but I don't know. I think now that these have filled out more, there's such a contrast between the living trees and the dead trees that I'm not really liking it anymore. So I think I'll pull them out. There's one out. I'll take this one out too. I can always put them back in if it looks too empty, but I don't think it will. I think I want that empty landscape look to this planting. There I go. Good root system on that tree. No idea why it died. It just did. I'm looking at the front view now of the whole planting. I do like that space on the left-hand side without the dead trees. It opens it up. It looks more spacious. It actually gives the planting more depth, I think. It allows your eye to kind of roam in there and get to those back trees. And yeah, not perfect for sure, but I think that's an improvement, getting rid of those dead trees. Now the landscape's in a bit of a mess. There's not really any moss, and it's not really good looking terrain anywhere, so I'll have to fix that up. The tree on the far left there, the small one, has a lot of dead branches at the front, and I think that looks okay. I'm not actually, yeah, it suits the planting quite nicely, I think. So yeah, a little more cleanup. There's a branch on the small tree to the left-hand side in the planting. There's a branch right here that comes up from the trunk, and it doesn't really suit the style of the tree. It's not part of the broom canopy, and it's quite thick and it starts down below, and I think it would look better without that branch. So I'm going to prune that off. That branch was dead anyway. I put the clay pot that I think I'll eventually plant this tree in out front. It's actually smaller than the pot that it's in now, and I think it'll suit it better. I think, you know, both the color of the pot and the fact it's clay will help the tree. You know, they like moisture, but they don't like it sitting in the pot. So I think it'll help wick away some of that excess moisture from the tree, so I can water it often, but it won't be sitting in, you know, wet soil. So yeah, so I'll continue to clean up the soil surface. I've got the landscape all cleaned up now, and I'll give it a good water. I do like the fact it's nice and dry and arid looking. It looks like a desert landscape. There's just a little bit of color back here in the copy, some moss. So I think it looks quite good. I will do some detailed touch-ups after I've watered it all. So here I go. There's a little baby bunny that lives under the insulation that's here for the new greenhouse. The insulation's for the back wall of the greenhouse that I'm supposed to be working on, but and I'll show you a little view of the bunny. He started off the cutest little thing. He's still quite tiny. If you can see him in there, right down there, he's just nibbling away on some grass. Hi. How are you? You look very cute. Wiggling your nose. Yeah, so that's the little bunny. And we call him Billy Bunny. I don't know if he's male or female, but that's kind of the tradition around here, is you call all the rabbits Billy Bunny. I've given the African landscape a good watering. It's certainly not done. I'm going to go in and refine it and stuff. I can see some perlites showing on the surface there, over here. But I think the tree's looking quite good. I like that, you know, separation of sections. Kind of gives an irregular shaped canopy. When viewed from above, it kind of separates it a bit, makes it look more mature. Yeah, so I'll be doing a little more work on this before the show, cleaning it all up and, you know, a few finishing touches, but that's basically the cleanup work on it for today. Today's update is my yew tree that I dug up from the backyard. A lot of people have been asking about it because you could see a little bit of it in the last video. You can see that kind of copper colored trunk there. So the tree hasn't been doing very well. I'll show you the shot of the canopy. There's still green up there. But not any vigor. Especially, you know, this main trunk line here, it's got green up top. You know, there's new shoots in there, which, you know, so far they're looking kind of healthy, but they're not really growing. The trunk at the back here, this one, if I follow that up, it doesn't look very good up top. There's very, I don't even know if you'd call it green foliage, it's more yellow and brown. The back part of that trunk maybe has a little bit of green on it, but again, it doesn't look very good. So I don't think the tree is going to make it. If it does make it, it will only be this one trunk, I believe. And there's still hope for it, but you know, I'm slowly losing hope over the summer. I was hoping, it would start growing and gain some vigor, but it hasn't. It's just, you know, barely budded out, and it's just barely hanging in there. So I haven't given up hope on it. I'm still watering it carefully, keeping it out of the wind here in this kind of outdoor studio. Trying to take care of it the best I can, and hopefully it's growing some roots in the pot down here. Certainly growing moss anyway. Look at all the moss that's growing on there. That was all just by itself. So that's the update on the yew tree. It's not totally dead, but I don't have a lot of hope for it. I think, you know, it's so weak right now that once winter comes, I think it'll just finish it off. Also today, I'll give an update on my asparagus fern. It's just been growing like crazy the last, well, since I pruned it last. Look at it. It's just really full up top. Crazy growth down below. I don't think you can even see the trunk. Oh, this is the back of it, but yeah, you can hardly see the trunk anymore. It's just filled in like you wouldn't believe. I kind of put, the reason you can see the back here is there was that bald spot from the top here, and I put that towards the light, so the light's coming over this direction, and all the new growth has come in and filled in that section really nicely. So it should look really good from the front. I won't pull it out now because I'll show it on a separate video where I'm doing the final pruning before the show. I'll get all my show trees together and give them a good going over, cleaning up the pots and the trees and all the final little touches. I'm really excited about this planting, and I'm looking forward to repotting it in its new pot and rearranging it a bit. I think I can make it look really, really good. So that's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.